Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 9:30. We're about to get started. I'm going to just wait a few more minutes. We have 21 students or 21 students here, and there's 28 in the class or 27 in the class. So let's just wait a few more minutes, let people get here. And we'll get started in just a minute. I'll talk about cameras and stuff in a minute. Okay, let's get started. We've got 25 students or 25 people here now. So welcome to Math 1314 College Algebra. You made it here, so that's a good thing. I emailed an orientation video out. I hope that you all had an opportunity to watch that. It was just a real quick introduction to the class. If you did not get a chance to watch that, make sure you log into Canvas, get to our course homepage, which looks like this. Everyone can see my screen, right? This it's a picture of me sitting at a desk wearing the same shirt. So this orientation video is here at the bottom, and you can watch that. If you haven't done it, please do so. I think it's like 10-15 minutes. So I want to first start off by making sure that everybody is in the right place. So Northwest Vista College offers two college algebra courses. Okay, one of them is called 1314 and the other one is called 1414. So if you are not needing more math, right? If you don't need to take pre-cal, you're not an engineering major, you're not a math major, you don't need pre-cal or calculus, then you are in the correct place, all right? But if you do need those courses, then you're in the wrong place and you need to take the 1414. And it's very important that we get that situated first, because I don't want you to waste your time here when you need to be in another class. So is there anybody who is unsure of whether or not they're in the correct college algebra course? Everyone feels like they know. You can tell me in the chat if you want, if you don't want to speak out. Anyone unsure? It's kind of it's a tricky thing to figure out. We have little maps and stuff we can show you, but looks like everyone feels like they're in the right place. So I think we can proceed. If something changes, let me know after class. So let me tell you a little bit of the history of why we have two different college algebras. What was happening was we were getting students coming in from high school or students that were returning to college after many years, and their math level was not where it needed to be. And so we were having students that could not complete degree programs because they couldn't get through the math requirement of college algebra. At the same time, we have to teach college algebra so that people can become mechanical engineers and things like that. So this college algebra was really a hurdle for students to successfully complete a degree and then go on and get a job. So we created two different paths for college algebra. And so an easy one and a hard one, right? So this is the easy one, the easier of the two. And the idea here is that this is really probably the last math class that you're going to need in college. So let's just see if we can't get through it. All right. The material here is, I'm not going to say watered down, but it is the bare necessities of what we can do to still call this college algebra. And so, again, if you need to do more math, this is going to hurt you because you will not have what you need. All right. So I'm actually this semester teaching both of them. I'm the 13-14 and 14-14. And I did the 14-14 yesterday, and it is like night and day difference between the two classes. So I think it's a good thing for students because it allows you to go on and successfully complete your degree. But it's tricky because we got to make sure you're in the right place. So that's the kind of history on this. Let's see, pre-nursing. So nursing, from what I've heard, this is okay for nursing because nursing has different math requirements. You should be fine here for nursing. And if you're pre-med, that's a little different because most medical school students have to have calculus, at least Cal 1, and a lot of medical schools are requiring Cal 2 now. So they're doing that to weed people out. So if you're pre-med, I think you're in the wrong place. If you're nursing, then you're okay. Anyone else have a question on majors? If you're undecided, like if you don't know what your major is yet, just keep in mind that if you do something later where you decide to do something more STEM, you might have to go back and take the other college algebra. Okay, with that out of the way, the next thing I just want to talk about is just a kind of I don't know, a thank you, I guess, for being here. I mean, this is not easy for all of us, I guess, this whole virtual learning thing. We've been in this thing for about a year or so, year and a half now. I actually have not physically been on campus in over, 18 months or something like that. So just you being here, I know is one hurdle, all right? And we're gonna try and do our best to do this virtually. It's difficult to sit there with all the distractions that you have around you, and maybe there's kids or whatever else, the rest of your family sharing a room, whatever. So just the whole mental aspect of being here, I just want to tell you I appreciate you giving this a shot. Hopefully this will all work out. I taught this in the summer, I taught it in the spring, and I would say 95% of my students got through and passed. I had a few that just didn't show up and didn't do any work, and then they'd fail exams and but for the most part, if you put the time in, you do the homework, ask questions when you don't know something, then you'll be fine. Let's see here. What else do I want to say? Anyone have any questions about the syllabus or the course homepage or the packet? Y'all understand that there is a packet for this class. You don't have to buy it. You can just click on it right here, download it, and that all of your homework assignments and everything will come out of that packet, right? I have a copy of the packet here we can look at. Where is it? There it is. So here's the packet. It's 270 pages, but when I assign a homework assignment out of the packet and it refers to a page number, this is what we're talking about, this packet. So the grade in the class, let me get to the syllabus because I do think it's worth talking about the grade. The grade in the class, and this is one thing students always complain about with taking class with me, is that the entire grade is exams, and they get all upset. And I understand that. Like if we were face-to-face in a classroom, I would give you quizzes, I would give you, credit for homework assignments, things like that. But without us being able to actually physically meet, the exams are the only easy way for me to give assessment. And I also provide all the solutions to the homework. Like the packet has the answers at the end of the packet, is all the answers. So it's not like you can't figure out what the correct answer is. It's really more about the work. So one big kind of lesson I hope that you have learned, even if this is your first time in college, is that you know, in college, we give homework. It's just, you're just supposed to do it. Like, there's no like babysitting for it, you know, like you're supposed to do it. We're not going to sit there and check that you did. If you're not doing your homework and you're not doing well, there's probably, there's your reason, right? So you're going to have some discipline here and take it upon yourself to do the homework, even though it's not part of your grade. Now, I will say this, I'm going to add something here. I will look at the homework as a bonus. All right, so what I'm going to do is at the very end of the semester, when we come to take our final, maybe the class before, so the class before our final, I'll ask everybody to come to the Zoom session with all their homework, like whatever you've been doing your homework in, whether it be a spiral or a notebook or whatever you have it with you. And then I'm just going to ask every student to kind of just show the camera, like not every single page, but just kind of like prove to me that you've been doing, you know, handwritten homework for the semester. And you should have a pretty good stack of papers, all right? And I will use that as bonus for the class. Easy bonus, right? That's easy bonus. All you got to do is just keep your homework in one place. The other bonus for the class is your camera. So someone already asked, do we have to have the camera on? I'm not going to require that you have your camera on. But it makes it a much better experience for myself. And I don't know about on your end, but for me, I have a screen that I'm going to write on, which is down here. I've got the screen in front of me, which is just you, like pictures of you or your videos. Then I've got like 2 other screens over here. So I've got this huge setup. I like to write, look up, see faces, you know, see if people are like nodding, like, yeah, I get that, or like, you know, this look of confusion. It helps me to be able to figure out where you are. So what I'm going to do is we meet, this is a 16-week course. So we're going to meet about, I think it's 28 to 30 times we're going to meet. And so every time we meet, everything's being recorded, and it also logs who was here. I have a list of everybody's name over here. And what I'm going to do is every day I'm going to be calling on people. All right, so I might be like, hey, Dylan, how would you do this next part, you know? And as I do that, I'm going to be taking attendance. And if your video is on, I'm going to make a note that your video was on. And at the end of the semester, I'm going to count like how many times your video was on, and I'm going to use that to determine a bonus. Now, the bonus will be a maximum of 8 points on your final exam grade, not your course grade, but the final exam we take. You can add 8 points to that if you came in here every single time and had your camera on. If you only have your camera on half the time, you know, you get 4 points. Now, look, it's not like I don't need, you can have it on if you need to step away and turn your camera off or something happens. You know, it's not like you have to have it on 100% of the day. You know, if you need to turn off for a little while, it's not going to disqualify you. But I can really start to learn people's names and stuff when I can see your face. So that begins today, and it's totally optional, but it's there. That's available to you. Okay. Any questions so far? No. Just be careful. You know, you're on camera, so be careful. Like 2 semesters ago, I had a girl on her back porch smoking a joint. And I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't realize her camera's on. And then she figured out it was and like freaked out, but I think I was the only one who noticed it. It was really fast. So just be careful, like what you have going on, what you're wearing, you know, and stuff like that. I think it's obvious, but it's happening, right? Like it happens to people, you know, the Zoom stuff. So there's pretty funny stuff online that you can watch, right? You'll see that meeting with the guy who, the older gentleman who went to like a city council meeting, and he had the cat, you know how you can do like where it turns your face into a cat or something. I guess his kid or something had been using Zoom, and so he was in this city council meeting as a cat, and everyone was laughing at him, and he's like, I promise I'm not a cat. It was hilarious because he was like an older gentleman, so he was like completely oblivious on how to stop, like turn it off, and it was funny. So, all right, any questions about bonus homework? Anything like that?
Before you on the orientation video, you said that you were gonna send us like an email on how to get the packet printed out.
Yeah, so okay, you can print the packet from the website. Just go to this website and you can download it and print it. What I think you're asking me is you can actually get a copy of it, physical copy,
Yes.
if you drive through. Well, the problem with that is that by the time they gave me that information, it was already, I would have been telling you like, hey, go today and pick it up.
Oh,
It wouldn't have. So I'm going to see if they have another option for later, like maybe this week or next, where y'all can go. They had like a drive-through packet pickup
oh, okay.
if you wanted it. Now, remember, you don't actually, as long as you have a computer or access to an electronic device, you can always get to the homework and you're never turning anything in. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no real need for a physical packet to print
Okay.
out 270 pages. But if you're one of those people who really just wants to have like something physically in their hands, then yeah, you'll either have to print it at home or you'll have to go pick it up in that. I have to check when they're going to have that. Does anybody know? I thought they were going to send all of y'all emails. Nobody got an email?
No.
So last week I had gotten a call. I think it was like Tuesday or Monday through Thursday. You could pick up from like 9 to 1, and then Friday was like 9 to 5 or something like that. But it was by the flag circle or something, and
Yeah.
I have no idea where that is.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I was referring to last week. I thought it was kind of late notice on that, to let y'all know. But I'll ask and see. Well, let me ask this: is anybody interested in picking up the packet? Yeah, I'm seeing a couple of yeses. Okay, let me check. Let me write this down so I don't forget this.
Yeah, because I think they had called me like the day of.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Come get your book."
Okay, I will reach out and see if they're going to do that again sometime. But I'm sure they have to, because I mean, we just started and some people didn't even look at their emails till today. So last week would have been kind of a waste. All right. Any other issues, packet questions, or?
If I were to like take the packet and like on my tablet, like write on the, instead of doing it in like a notebook,
Mhm.
but like doing it digitally on like my tablet, would that be fine?
For
Like
the bonus?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Or would it
fine. I mean, you could even, I guess, in theory, like send me electronic version of, because it'll be kind of hard to flip through it. I guess you could when I'm looking at everyone's, but yes, you can do that. Go ahead and do that. Don't worry about paper and pencil
Okay.
if you've got the ability to do that.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So the next big thing is kind of like the elephant in the room, and that is testing, right? So, you know, this whole Zoom thing is really challenging with how to test. I mean, normally in a classroom, I just hand out the test and I know that people are doing their own work and there's no issues. But with Zoom, it's very, very challenging. So, you know, my goal in the way that I do my testing is not to sit here and like make this really hard for you. I'm just trying to provide a fair level playing field for everybody in the class. Okay. There are people who are going to maintain the integrity of the course in themselves, and they're going to do their own work. And if they don't know what they're doing, they're going to get it wrong, and they're okay with that. They understand that. And then there's other people who are going to look at the test, freak out, and then make a mistake and go and try and do something to cheat. So my testing policy is pretty clear on how you have to have your camera set up. So, and I will not deviate from this. That the picture you see on the main page here of me isn't because I like to have a picture of myself. I'm trying to give you an example of what I expect from your camera setup during a test. All right, so I need to be able to see you, what's around you. So for everyone I'm looking at right now, okay, in the cameras, none of you have your camera set up properly for a test. And I'm not telling you to change things. I'm just telling you that won't work. So if you have a laptop it'll be easier for you to move your laptop with the camera to a position where I can see you and what's around you. If you have a desktop where you can't move it around, you're going to have to probably use your phone and download the Zoom app and then move your phone around to a position. All right. Now, the first test is going to be tricky, because in the first test, I know what's going to happen. We're going to have people who come in, they just can't seem to get their camera set up properly. No matter what, everyone has to though, right? Like you have to be able to do it. And if you can't take the test. So on the first test, if you can't get your camera set up properly, I will not let you take the test. And then you'll have to work something out with them to do a makeup test. That's only the first test. The second test, if you can't get your camera set up correctly, you're going to get a 0 on the test. All right. So that's an expectation. If you don't like that expectation, you're like, man, this is bullshit, I don't want, then you can happily move to another class. Like I'll help you transfer to another instructor. Maybe they have different policies, whatever. That's my policy. And I'm pretty strict about it. All right. So camera set up properly. The way it'll work, and I explained this in the orientation a little bit. Everyone will come into the Zoom session. I will email everybody the test. If you have a printer at home, you can print the test out. If you don't have a printer, then you'll have to handwrite all the problems. After you've printed or handwritten the problems, then you will begin the test. And you'll actually send me a little chat in the Zoom. You'll say, hey, I'm about to start the test. At that point in time, your camera has to be set up properly. Okay. You'll set your camera up, and then before you start doing the test, you're going to have to show me like what, because I'll be able to see your desk, right? You're going to have to show me every single page on camera. You're going to have to show me every single page of what's in front of you. So you should have the test that you just wrote. You should have blank paper. If I provide you formula sheets, you can have that. Anything I tell you, you can have. You have to show me that on camera. And then for the rest of the test, that should be all you have in front of you. There's no fumbling around for other things, or you can go use the restroom and stuff, that's fine. But again, it's about providing a fair, level playing field. Everybody's got the same requirements. Does anybody have any questions about that, or concerns, or want clarification on anything there? Okay, the next big hurdle. I have a question. Go ahead, John.
I was wondering if we have like a webcam, an external webcam, would that be okay as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that you can like move around wherever you want.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. And,
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So during the test, during the exam, when you have your camera set up and I can see what's in front of you, you can have computer screens in front of you, but they can't be on. Okay. So I'm not asking you to like go relocate to like, I had someone like, it was hilarious. They set up their camera for the first test and they were like sitting on a chair in the middle of a room with like a TV dinner table, like this big, and they're just like, saying, I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like you can sit at your desk. You just have to clear it all off so I can see what's in front of you and make sure there's no computer on or anything. So webcam will be fine as long as you can get it positioned properly. So you take the test, right? The next huge hurdle for us is how you actually get that work to me, right? Because I'm interested in what you put on paper. I'm really not interested in whether or not you get the right answer or wrong answer. I mean, it's good if you get the right answer, but I'm more interested in the actual work. Like, are you processing things? Are you doing logical steps? So you have to get your work to me. So after you finish the test, what you'll do is you'll send me a chat in Zoom. Right? Say, hey, I'm done. At that point, you have, we'll say 15 minutes. And what most students do, if you don't have a scanner at home, what most students do, most students have iPhones. Is anybody Android? Okay. I think it's a little easier. I don't know which is easier. I have Android, but most people, what they do is after they're done with the test, they text or they send me a chat. Hey, I'm done with the test. They then go get their cameras. You're allowed to move your cameras around at that point, and they take pictures of each page, okay, of their work, okay, with their phones. And then the challenge is to get all those pictures turned into a single Adobe PDF file. Now, if you don't know what that is, we've got some time before the first exam to figure that out. But The iPhone has a way of doing it where it'll take these images and turn them into a single PDF file. And that is what you will submit to me. Okay, I'll send you a link, you'll click on it, you'll upload the file. So there will be a learning curve here on this first test, and I'm going to give you an assignment here in the next week or so where we can practice doing this. All right, I'm going to ask you to send me a single PDF file of something, and I'm going to send you the link. And that way, when we get to the first exam, you're not like, that's not the first time you've done it. Does that all kind of make sense? Would y'all like to see what a single PDF file looks like what I'm expecting? I can show you what a student has sent to me in the past. Let me bring up, let me see if I can get this open. Let me bring up last semester. Let me go summer. Show you my Cal 2, so that way you'll look at it and not know what the heck it is. So here's the student work. Okay. So here we go. This is what a student submitted to me. I don't know if you noticed that. It was a single file, right? It was one file. It was an Adobe Acrobat PDF file. It was a huge file. It was 14 meg. But when I open the file, it's 12 pages. Okay, that's what's in the file. It's 12 pages and it's all their work. I can read this, right? This is legible, right? I can tell what this student has done. So that's good, all right? What I don't want is for you to send me 12 individual pictures of your work, because then it gets very complicated. I have 27 students here. If each of you send me 10 pictures, you know, we start getting into the multiple hundreds of files that I have to figure out where they go. And it gets really hard. So what I'll do is where's my cursor? Once you send me this file, right, what I'll do is I'll open it. Let me show you that. Maybe not. Well, I'll open it in this program where I can write on your test, and I'll grade it just the way I would if it was paper pencil test. And once I grade it, I will post it in Canvas. It'll have your grade, and there will be a link to your graded exam, and you'll be able to look to see what you missed. That makes sense? So you getting it to me as a single PDF file helps me out tremendously. And, you know, I don't get angry, but I get a little, I don't know, anger. It's not anger. I get frustrated when students can't follow those directions, especially when I've given them an opportunity to practice. And then that first exam, they send me eight pictures. And I'm like, okay, now I've got to sort through these, you know, what's page 1, what's page 2, whose are these? So, all right. Does that all make sense? Any questions on the testing? How many tests do we have? Let's look at our schedule. This is our schedule for the class. Again, this is in Canvas. You can print this out. The schedule is actually pretty long. It's 4 pages. I wish I could have gotten it on 1 page. Our first exam is on September 7th, which is exactly 2 weeks from today. That's when our first exam is. And then we have exam 2, October 5th, exam 3, October 28th, and then exam 4, November 23rd. And then our final is on December 9th. So we have a total of 5 exams that we're going to take in this class. There is a chance, I'm not sure yet, there is a chance that we don't do exam 4. Okay, there's a chance that we just make that part of the final. If for some reason I don't do exam 4, I will replace exam 4's grade with the highest test grade you have. Does that make sense? Even if the final exam turns out to be your highest grade, that will become exam 4. If exam 1 was your highest grade, that'll be your exam 4. If we don't get to it, if I feel like, you know what, it's too close to have 2 exams almost back to back. So the schedule, the way you read the schedule, you know, the date today is August 24th, right? I'm going to talk about fractions today. And then you're supposed to try these homework assignments. This homework assignment out of the packet, page 221, look at 1 through 25 odd. So you would then go open up the packet. You go to page 221. There's page 221. and you're supposed to do 1 through 25 odd. Make sense? Okay. I don't think I have anything else. I want to start maybe getting into the material. Do we have anything else administrative that you want to discuss?
So will we be able to use calculators or formula sheets?
Oh, good. Yeah, good question. So I believe the syllabus says that everyone should try and get their hands on a specific calculator, but it doesn't have to be this one. Where is it? So the syllabus says that you need the TI-30XS multi-view calculator. Look, all you need in this class is a scientific calculator, which means that, you know, if your calculator has a bunch of buttons on it that you don't know what the hell they do, that's a scientific calculator, right? Like, so you just need that. I don't care which one you have. The advantage to having that one is that if a lot of people have it, then it's easy for me to explain like what keys to press, because everyone's using the same calculator. I don't want you to have to go invest in one though. I believe that calculator is $12. I think at Walmart it's like 12 bucks. So now you cannot use your phone as a calculator on the test. All right, so I don't want that to become an issue, because I know it's going to happen. Someone in here is going to do it. They're going to be like, you know, first exam comes, they're like, hey, I don't have a calculator. And I'm like, okay, can I use my phone? And then you start making me feel guilty. And I'm like, I guess. And then it's not fair to other people. So it's just, let's just say right now, you know, let's stick to this, no phones on the tests, right? So, and that means when we're doing problems, don't be using your phone as a calculator, because then when the test comes, if you're not using your phone, you're not going to be familiar with the calculator that you're using. So you'll be like, I don't know what key to, you know. So does that answer your question about the calculator? What else did you say? Calculator and something else.
Formula sheet.
Formula sheets. So historically, I have allowed students to create a formula sheet for each test. Now that formula sheet can only have formulas, equations. You can give yourself like hints and steps on how to do something, but you cannot have like worked out problems on it.
Okay.
And I'll specify that more later. And normally it's 1 page, front and back. You know, you can handwrite it or you can type it up, however you want to do it. There's no real restriction, just as long as it doesn't have worked out problems on it. I will also provide reviews for each test, and I will provide the answers to the reviews. I usually send out the review at least 1 weekend before the test, and then the answers usually don't come till later. So like I make you kind of suffer with it for a while, and then I send you the answers. Anything else?
Yes, sir. So I saw an email saying that in-person classes resume September 7th. Will you be reverting to an in-person class?
Well, this class will not be an in-person class.
Okay.
This class was never set up as an in-person class.
Okay.
So we will remain on Zoom. Now, if you were preferring to be on campus and resume, then I can look about trying to get you into that class. Those classes are meeting in Zoom right now, but then they will transition back to on campus, but not this one. And I would be willing to bet that it's not going to happen. Like, I'm willing to bet it's not.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think we're all going to be on Zoom. I hope we go back, only because I'm just like tired of being in my house. But you know, we'll see.
And then last semester we were allowed to use Desmos. Are we allowed to use it this semester with you?
Desmos, I'll use Desmos throughout the semester to show you things. If people don't know what Robert's referring to, is there's a website called Desmos, and we're using the graphing utility here. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I will use this to graph things, like, you know, if we want to see what a line looks like, you know, I'll use that. Now, you're free to use that on your own computer also. The thing is, during a test, you can't be using the computer at all. So yes, you can use it, but I wouldn't I wouldn't get used to having that around to answer problems or to find answers to things. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? You sure? Okay, so I do want to get into the material, but I'm just gonna take a little bit of time to just kind of, I don't like to talk about myself, but I do think it's important to kind of give you a little bit of a background, just so you know kind of where I'm coming from. I've been teaching for a long time, like over 20 years. And I started teaching when I was really young, okay? And when I was a student in college, when I was a student in elementary school, okay, math was not my thing, okay? And I went to a private school. We had, in private school, we had A group, B group, C group. So A group were all the smart kids. B group was all the kind of like middle of the road kids. And C group was like the rest of them, you know? And I was in that group, that C group, right? Back in the day, they didn't care about your feelings, you know, like they would tell you, yeah, you suck at math and that's why you're in this group, you know? So that's where I was, right? I was in the group that didn't do well. I went into high school, kind of the same thing. I went to private school. Didn't do that great. Went to college, and I don't know why I thought in college that I was going to be a mechanical engineer. Like my math was terrible. So like why I decided to do that. I like tinkering with stuff. I like building stuff. So I'll be a mechanical engineer, but my math sucked. So I kind of wavered around, and a lot of things happened in college. I had a lot of personal issues happen. I was stupid. I was young. I was just dumb, right? But I got to a point where I had screwed up quite a bit in college. Okay, I had messed up. I had taken F's. I just stopped going to class. And so I got to a point where I was actually put on probation, where, you know, they make you sit out, or they make you, like, they say, hey, you better get your grades up, right? Dylan, you're laughing. Are you okay, Dylan? Does this sound familiar or something? Don't answer that. So, you know, I was in this position where I got on probation, and then if you don't pick up your grades in probation, they dismiss you. So they kicked me out of the university. I had to sit out for 1 semester. So then I went back, and I still couldn't get my shit together. And so I got dismissed a second time. And that time they made me sit out for a year. Okay, so, you know, I was young, all right? I just wasn't mature enough for college at that point. And so what happened was I sat out for a year. I took a couple of classes at the Alamo colleges, just because they didn't kick me out, the university did. So took a couple of classes, started to get a little bit of like my basic stuff out of the way, took some math classes, started to like try a little bit. And then I tried to get back into the university, and the dean of the department told me, no, we've already given you enough chances. You're not coming back. And I was like, please, can you just meet with me? I just want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. Nope, he wouldn't meet with me. So I just showed up one day at the dean's office and talked to the secretary lady or whatever. And she was like, sorry, the administrative assistant. And so she's like, well, he's busy and all this. I was like, please. And then he came out of the office, and I kind of caught him. And I was like, you know, sir, could you please talk to me? And I told him who I was. He got all pissed off, and he went in his office. And he's like, come in. And he was on the phone. He got a phone call, and he was sitting there. And I'm sitting down in front of him, and I've got like this letter, and I'm like already talking. I look on his desk, and there's a picture of a girl, like a marriage picture, right? A picture of the married couple. They were like in their wedding stuff. And it was a guy and a girl, right? The guy was one of my childhood buddies that I went to school with for like 8 years. The girl, I could only assume, was his daughter, right? So he gets off the phone, and he's like mad that I'm even there. And I was like, you know, Vincent. that's Vincent, my friend. He's like, you know Vince? And I was like, yeah. And we talked for like an hour about Vince, his son-in-law, right? About childhood stuff we did, sports we played. And then at the end of this conversation, he was like, why are you here again? I was like, I'm trying to get back into school. And he's like, give me the paper, and signed it, and I was on my way, right? And that was it. And so at that point in time, like I actually focused, I dedicated myself completely to school. I had disappointed my parents quite a bit. You know, they had provided me private school education, sacrifice. I go to college and I'm just a complete joke, right? So I finally get my shit together. I'm like, I'm gonna prove to myself and my family that I can do something, right, in college. So what should I do? So what I chose was the hardest thing I could think of, right? I was like, what is what everyone says is hard, right? And math, right? That's the thing that's hard. So I chose that, I dedicated myself, and I became one of the top students in the university in the math program. And I just went on and got my graduate degree in math and everything else. And it's all history at that point. But the reason I tell this story is because I know what it's like to be at that end and be unsure about what you're going to do, be not sure if college is really what you want to do, to not be focused, to not be, you know, I know what that is. And my advice to you is, if you're not sure, if you're not focused, you know, my advice would be just take some time away. Like, don't do college. Like, don't, you know, just go find yourself first, you know, find your direction. And then, you know, if college works, if it makes sense to you, then do it. But doing it half-ass or just like 10% of the way, you're never going to get the benefits of college. Now, if you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I'm putting in the effort, I'm trying, that's all you need, right? You can be very successful if you can just look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. And I think that my kind of story is an example of that. All right, that if you focus and you dedicate, even if you don't like it, you can still get through it. Like, I hated writing papers. I hated writing papers. I had to write so many damn papers in college. And it pissed me off because I'd write this paper that I thought was great and the teacher would give me a C. And I'm like, it's the best paper ever. And, you know, it's like, you know, math is a little less, you know, less ambiguous, right? Like, my professors didn't have the flexibility to just be like, I don't like that. You know, it's like right or wrong. And so I like that about it, you know? So, take what you want from that. Just understand that I have compassion, like I understand, but at the same time, if you're just lazy and you're like I was, like, I know that too. Like, I see that too. And I'll just be honest with you, like, hey, you know, just don't do this right now. Go do something else. All right. So I was not like this gifted math prodigy or anything like that. Like, I had to work my ass off to get to a point where I can teach math. And normally I don't teach this class. I teach calculus. That's like where I like to teach. But I also like to teach this class because it brings me back to a certain type of student that doesn't love math, that's not sure. And I like to try and be able to make math a little easier for you, because maybe you have this like really dark picture of what math is in your mind. Okay, we all right with that? Sorry to spew so much. All right, here we go. We're going to get into it. And as you sit there and watch me go through this, I want you to remember something. That what we're doing here, right? When you're sitting there saying to yourself, like, why do we need to know this, right? Why do we need to know this? Why do I need to know how to do fractions? I can just use a calculator. What this is about trying to train your brain to think about doing things in processes, in steps, in procedures, all right? This is not about the idea that in somewhere in your life, you're gonna need to be able to graph a quadratic function. That's never gonna happen, okay? You're never gonna need to be able to graph a quadratic function in your real life. But when we're doing it here, what we're doing is we're trying to teach our brain to think a certain way. Very analytical, very like process-oriented, step-by-step procedural things. You go to an English class, maybe you can be more creative, or an art class, you can be creative. This is a certain part of your brain that we're trying to make sure can function a certain way. So we're going to be it's like me teaching you how to use a saw or a hammer, right? Here's the nail, here's the hammer, hit it. Okay, you know how to use a hammer? Good. Now here's a saw. This is a little more complicated. You got to make sure, you do this, do that. So that way, when you get into the real world and they're trying to teach you how to, whatever it is, nursing, right? They're trying to teach you how to get this machine ready for this patient. You're not one of these people who they have to show you how to do it like 20 freaking times because you never trained your brain to learn processes. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, I'm done spewing. I'm ready to talk about fractions now. Any last words before we dive in? No. All right, here we go. So I'll be calling on a few students here. Let's start. Let's let Brianna start us off. Brianna, are you there? Where's Brianna? I've got a lot of students here. Brianna Aldrich. No. Joe.
Go by Nix.
Oh, Nix. Okay, I'm going off my roster. So
Yeah.
okay, let me change it on my roster. That way, when I call you again, I'll be correct. And if that happens, if I call you and you go by something else, just let me know. NYX, Nix. That's pretty simple for me to say. All right, Nix. So Nix, my question to you to get us started is, if you remember back when you were very, very young, when you were learning about numbers, right? What were the first things that you learned when it came to numbers in terms of how we can do operations with them? Do you remember like what the first sort of thing they taught you?
Like
if I give you two numbers, like what's the first sort of operations that you learn that you can do with those numbers?
you can add them together.
Okay, add, and then after they tell you how to add, they tell you how to what?
Subtract.
Subtract, right? So these things are called the arithmetic operations. Oops, hold on. I got to close this and reopen it. Sometimes my program does that. So Nix is recalling a time when you're learning arithmetic. Y'all can see my screen, yes? Is this clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have addition, we have subtraction, and then after that, Nix, they move on and they teach you about what other two operations?
Multiplication and division.
Multiplication, division. And when you're first learning it, these are the symbols we use, right? Add, subtract, multiply, they use this little X. Later on, we like to replace this with a dot, okay? But for now, in the beginning, they use this little X. And then the division symbol here, right? And then later on, we stop using the division symbol and instead we use like a fraction, right? Something like 3/4 or something instead. But the point is, what Nix has helped point out is that when you're learning about numbers in the very beginning, you learn 4 operations and you learn them in that order: add, subtract, multiply, divide, right? Does everyone remember learning it that way? Okay, and then after you learn about these numbers, okay, you're doing things like 3 + 4, 4 - 2, 8 × 6, right? After you use all those nice numbers, then they introduce fractions, right? At some point, fractions come. So I'm assuming right now that everyone in this class, if I gave you 2 numbers, you could add them, subtract them, multiply, and divide them. I mean, just like common numbers, not like big, huge numbers, but like, 4 × 7, you could go, 28. And if you can't, you have your calculator ready to go, right? So I assume everyone can do that. Basic arithmetic with basic numbers. But when you start to talk about fractions, things are a little different. Once we introduce fractions, things change. So let's go to Joe. Is Joe here? Joe.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Joe. All right, Joe. So I'm going to ask you a question about fractions. Do you happen to remember, Joe, when you learned fractions, the order they taught you how to do the operations? Like you have the 4 operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. When you learn fractions, do you remember what order they taught you how to do these? If you don't, you don't, but.
No, yeah, I don't.
Okay. So does anyone remember when you were learning about fractions, do they teach you how to add them first, then subtract, then multiply, then divide?
Yeah, that's how I learned it.
Is that the way you remember it? Yeah.
That's how I learned it too.
So normally, and maybe it's just the way you're recalling it, normally with fractions, we teach the multiplication and division first because it's easier than the addition and the subtraction is. So if you learned it a different way, that's fine. But when it comes to fractions, the order that we're going to talk about doing is multiplication first, then division, then we'll talk about adding, and then we'll talk about subtracting. That's the order we're going to do them. And today, with what time is left, I'm going to remind you how to do this. This is kind of a review. So this is me reminding you how we do the 4 arithmetic operations with fractions. Okay, so I think the best way to do this is just to do an example. And then after I give you the example, if there's a formula, I'll provide you the formula, and then we'll do another example. So here's the first one. If you were to take a fraction like 3/4, and I ask you to multiply it, so I'm going to use a dot, times 1/5. Does anyone remember how you multiply 2 fractions together?
Just multiply it straight across, right?
Straight across. Okay, all you do to multiply 2 fractions together is you multiply their numerators and you multiply their denominators straight across. So you do 3 times 1, which gives you 3, and you do 4 times 5, which gives you 20. And you get an answer of 3/20. Now, if you like formulas, here's that formula written down. If you have a fraction a divided by b, and you want to multiply that times c over d, so 2 different fractions, the way you multiply is you multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. And that would be a formula that you could use. You could have that on your formula sheet, right? For a test, you could write that down if you wanted to. So this is multiplying fractions. All right, let's do another example, because that one was a little bit simple. Let's do 3/4 times 2/5. So that doesn't look that different, but there is a slight difference in this, all right? So let's go with, if I messed this up, I'm sorry. Is it Diana? I think it's Diana Diana B?
Yes.
Okay, I'm saying Diana right? I haven't lost
Yes.
my- Okay. Diana, help me out with this one. What do you get when we multiply these 2 fractions? So go straight across, right?
Yes. You get 6/20.
6/20. Hey, also, I want to point out, I'm going to call on you. If you don't know, it's okay. Like, just say, hey, I don't know. Don't be like, oh my God, I'm going to go drop the class. I'm so embarrassed. I didn't know the answer. Like, I promise you, everyone's going to leave here and nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, this person in my class, they couldn't answer. No. Okay. You're here to learn. This is about you. All right. So don't be afraid. I'd rather you make mistakes when I call on you than to make mistakes during the test. All right. Okay, good, Diana. Now, Diana, there's something about this one. We're not done. Do you recognize that we're not done, Diana?
Yes, you can simplify it.
You can simplify. Okay, so Diana used the exact perfect word, simplification. So what Diana recognizes is that even though this is correct, 6/20 is correct, it can be simplified in what, well, Diana, you tell me what you mean by that. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Like, what would you do to simplify this?
You can make it smaller. 6 goes into both of them. So you
Okay.
can divide by 6.
Does 6 go into 20? I agree with you. Something goes into both of them, right? There is a number that divides into both of these. What number though? It's not 6.
I'm sorry, not 6, 2.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So, haha, Diana messed. See, we don't care, right? We don't care. So 2 goes in there. So Diana's saying 2 goes into 6 3 times, right? So we're not going to write the 2 down, but we're just like mentally thinking 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 20 10 times. So that means that we have 3/10. And now that would be our simplified answer. So the difference between the first example and the second one is that the first one, there was no simplification that could happen, right? There's no number that goes into both of these other than 1. Here, 6/20, there was a number that went into both. Okay, I'm going to give you one more. And I can't believe how long I yapped for. 4/15 times, let's go with 30/8. Okay, let's go to John. Where's John?
Right here.
John C.
I'm right here.
Yeah, John C. You doing all right today, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what about this one, John? What are you thinking here?
So we have to multiply across. So 4 times 30.
Yeah, so if you need a calculator, that's okay. It's, no one cares, right? Just crank it out.
4 times 30 is 120.
Okay, and then over.
And then over can be 15 times 8 is going to be 120 as well.
Is it 120?
It should be
Okay.
120.
Yeah, so what's 120 divided by 120? We got lucky here. What's the answer?
Simplify to 1.
1, okay, because any number over itself is 1.
Mhm.
Okay, good, good. Now, I want to just make sure we're all clear that we could have done something else, okay? That before we did the multiplication, we actually could have done simplification. So this only works when you have multiplication. If you look at the numerator and denominator, I noticed that the 4 and the 8, they both have something that goes into both of them, right? 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 8 twice, right? So I can reduce that. It's called reducing the fraction. Also, for the other two, 15 and 30, there's a number that goes into both of those, right? 15. 15 goes into 15 once, 15 goes into 30 twice. And so really this problem could have been 1/1 times 2/2. And you could even reduce it here, but I think it's clear that this is 2/2 and that gives you 1. So the point is that there are multiple ways to get to the correct answer. I just want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that you can simplify like this before you multiply across. As long as there's multiplication here, you can do this. Questions?
Are you gonna want us to do it one way or the other specifically?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't care which way you do it. And that's an important point. How do you say your name? Dora Lee?
Dorley.
There you go. Okay, so Dora Lee's asking, do I care which way you do it? I don't care which way you do it as long as you get the right answer. And that brings up this point that a lot of times in math, what we're doing is we're trying to get from point A to point B, right? We're just trying to get from the starting point to the ending point. The path you take really doesn't matter to me, all right? I don't care how you do it. And I'd prefer you not go this way and then like take a long walk and then finally come here. I'd prefer you be efficient, but as long as you don't break any rules, like I don't care how you get to the answer, right? That's one of the beautiful things about math is that there are rules and everyone should get the same answer. So as long as you don't break those rules, eventually you arrive at the answer, hopefully. All right, if there's ever something that I want you to do a certain way or something like that, I will explicitly tell you.
Okay.
Okay, next thing, next example. We're gonna go to division. Okay, so what if I take 4/3 divided by, let's go with 5/7. So does anyone know how to do this one when you have division like that? Anyone remember how to do it?
You have to flip the second fraction and make it a reciprocal.
So flipping this fraction, the second one you said, flipping
Yes.
that's called its reciprocal. That is correct. We're going to flip it, but what are we going to do with the operation?
And it will become a multiplication. I'm sorry.
Multiplication. Okay, so I'm actually going to write the formula down first. If you have a fraction and you divide it by another fraction, that is the same as leaving the first fraction alone, changing the division to multiplication, and then flipping or reciprocating the second fraction. So the second fraction gets flipped over, the first fraction stays the same. And what you basically have done is converted the problem from division to multiplication. And then we know how to do multiplication because we just did multiplication, right? So I've had students say this before and I like it. It's keep dot flip. Have you ever heard that before? Keep dot flip.
I've never heard that one, but we used to call it keep change flip.
Keep change flip, yeah.
Yeah, that was what we called it.
Yeah, so there's all these little cute ways you can remember this. So the idea here is that if you want to do division of two fractions, you're going to keep the first one the same. You're going to put a dot and then you're going to flip the second fraction. So keep dot flip. So for this, I'm going to write 4/3 dot, and then I flip the second fraction over 7/5. And then for here, because of multiplication, I just go straight across. Now, before I go straight across, I'm going to check, does anything reduce? So are there any numbers that go into these? So I don't see anything. I don't see any numbers that go into both the top and bottom. Y'all know what I mean? Y'all see what I'm saying? Like 2 doesn't go into 4 and 5. Let's see, 3 doesn't go into, yeah, no, nothing happens here. So I just go straight across. 4 times 7 is 28. 3 times 5 is 15. And then that's our answer. Okay, I'm going to move on. Multiplication, division are pretty straightforward. I hope you agree with that. If not, get with me. Remember, I have office hours before our class and after our class. I'm in a Zoom session. You can come and ask questions. Just look at the syllabus for that information. Okay, next thing I want to talk about before we get into the next thing is adding and subtracting fractions. Before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about what are called mixed numbers. Mixed numbers. So maybe you've seen these before. I'm sure you have. If I write this down, 2, and then after it, I write a fraction like 1/3. The way you'd say that is 2 and 1/3. That means you have 2 of something and then you have 1/3 of something. Think of a candy bar, right? You have 2 candy bars and then you have 1/3 of a candy bar. That's what that means. This is called a mixed number, all right? There's other ways of writing numbers called a proper fraction. And then there's a final way, which is called an improper fraction. So mixed numbers is one way you can write a number. A proper fraction is a different way you can write a number, and an improper fraction is another way. So let me give you an example of a proper fraction. 4/7. What makes this a proper fraction is the fact that the top is smaller than the bottom. An improper fraction would be the other way around, where the top is bigger than the bottom. Do you see the difference between these two? If the numerator is smaller than the denominator, it's a proper fraction. If the numerator is bigger than the denominator, it is an improper fraction. So when it comes to numbers, there is a way that you can always convert mixed numbers over to improper fractions. There's a way to convert both ways. You can turn a mixed number into an improper fraction, or you can turn an improper fraction into a mixed number. And I want to make sure we all know how to do that. All right. So let's start. And by the way, these aren't the same. These are, I'm not implying that 2 and 1/3 is the same as this. Okay, they aren't the same. I'm just showing you that there's a way to get back and forth between the two. All right. So let's do that. Let's take 2 and 1/3. And I want us to convert that to an improper. Anyone remember how to do it?
So you multiply the denominator by the whole number and then add 1.
Okay, good. So there's like this little like pattern you can do. What you do is, and this is hard to write down in words or in a formula. It's just more of something you look at it and do it. So Robert said, we're going to take this whole number in front 2, and we're going to take the number 3, and we're going to, you said multiply those, right?
Correct.
We're going to multiply those together. And then after we do that, what do?
Add the 1.
And then you take that number and you add that.
And whatever
you
your,
got.
oh, sorry.
Right. You
Yeah.
add that number 1 to whatever you got after you multiplied. So for this, Robert, you're saying we're gonna take the 2, we're gonna multiply times the 3, right?
Yes.
2 times
Correct.
3, and we're gonna add the 1.
Yes.
And we're not done. There's one more thing we have to do.
So whatever the total of that equation is right there,
Mhm.
it becomes your numerator.
That's the numerator. What goes on the bottom?
The 3, your denominator.
3. Whatever this denominator was, always winds up being down here. So in this particular case, we have 2 times 3, which was 6. We add 1, we get 7 over 3. That is the improper fraction. Let me give you another one just to make sure you understand. 4 1/5. 4 1/5 converted to an improper fraction. So let me call on somebody. How about Victoria? Victoria.
So you would multiply 4 times 5 and then add the 1 and then put 5 as your denominator.
Good. Okay, so what would that be equal to? 4 times 5 plus 1.
That would be 21
21
over 5.
over 5, and that's your improper fraction. Is there a way we could make a formula out of this? I think we actually could. Watch, let me try. If I have, let's say, some number with a fraction next to it, right? Like we had the 2 1/3, or we had the 4 1/5. Then the formula is that you're going to take the number, multiply it times the thing on the bottom. You're going to add the A, and then you're going to divide the whole thing by B. So again, if you like formulas, there's a formula for you. If it makes sense. If that just confuses you, stick with what you already know. Okay. How do we go the other way? What if I start with those? What if I start with 7 over 3? This is an example. Sorry, this is an example. This is an example. Oop. If I start with 7 over 3, how do I turn that into a mixed number?
Divide 7 by 3.
Yeah, you have to do the old school, like what we call long division. You have to do a division box. Inside the division box goes 7, outside goes 3. And then you play that game that you learned a long time ago. How many times does 3 go into 7 without going over? So it goes in there twice, right? 2. And if you multiply the 2 times the 3, you get 6. You put that underneath here and you subtract and you get 1. And so that's your remainder. And so what we do is once we get the remainder, we write the remainder 1 over the 3 that was out here. So 2 1/3. Does that ring a bell to everyone? I mean, long division is one of those things we learned way back when. Let's do the other one. 21 over 5. So we put the 21 inside, 5 on the outside. So Emily, what would I have here?
So you would have 4 at the top, because 4 by 5 would be 20.
Okay.
And then you would have a remainder of 1, which would be 4 1/5.
4 1/5. There we go. Okay. So that converted that improper fraction to the mixed number. Okay. We're at a point where we're ready to talk about addition, subtraction, but it wouldn't really make sense for us to get into that to just stop in 5 minutes because class stops in 5 minutes. So I want to just show you right now, we're already a little behind because I wouldn't shut up earlier. On your homework, I'm going to point out what problems I want you to look at, all right? Because we're not going to do everything. Let me bring up the packet. So you're supposed to do page 221. Here we go. Oh, wow, there's not a lot that you can do. Let me see if I can't. Okay, so here's what I'd like for you to do for this homework. I'd like for you to do number 5. And there's only one other one that you can do, which is number 9. Okay, number 5 and number 9. But there's one more thing I want you to do. Everywhere you see mixed numbers, I want you to convert them to improper fractions. So like on number 2, you see number 2? See how that's 2 mixed numbers? Convert those to improper fractions and then leave it alone. So like whatever that is, figure out what that is, plus whatever that is. And then we'll do the addition next time we meet. We'll make sure everyone knows how to do addition. So really you're going to be looking at, you're going to do number 5 and number 9. You're going to convert all the ones in pink. You will convert over to improper fractions. Oh, wait, you can try number 12. I didn't see that one. Number 12, you can try it, and 13. So to be clear again, I only want you looking at this one page. Ignore the rest of the homework, all right? Just this one page, I want you to do that. In the blue, try and do the whole problem. Everything that's in reddish pink, just convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions. Are there any questions on that? Again, I'm not going to collect this, right? This is just to make sure that you're, we're on the same page as far as what I expect that you should be comfortable with by the next time we meet. All right, anything else? All right, you're free to go. Thank you for being here. I look forward to the rest of the semester. Thanks for having your cameras on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be posting the video on YouTube later. Okay, take care.
Thank you, sir. Have a good rest of your day.
I'll stay here if anyone has a question.
I had a
Enjoy
question
the
about,
rest of your day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Question?
I had a question about like the first 5 minutes where you said the classes. I'm taking network administration. So will this class be good for it, or was it a little bit too slow of a pace for?
Well, network administration. Let me see here. Trying to figure out where I should go for this.
I know the other class that's close to this would be like computer science for UTSA transfers, but that's more of a math based.
So you need. See, I'm not quite sure. You said your computer what?
Network administration.
Network administration. And you plan on doing UTSA?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just look. Have you talked to an advisor there?
Well, this was like last year. I skipped a whole year in between.
Okay, let me just see if I can find anything on network administration here.
Or like computer information, I think it was. I know at UTSA, there was a couple of things that went underneath. It was like cybersecurity, but then they're all considered like business degrees or something like that.
Yeah, let me see, hold on. I think that last page I was on. So database administrator, network administrator, network engineer, system analyst. Does this look like something?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, degree requirements. Permission requirements. Yeah, math 1050, math for business, calculus for business. So I would say no. This class is probably not right because where did it go? I lost it. Oh, here we go. So math for business, right? Like business. The classes that just showed up in that on that UTSA page are these two classes, Math 1324, Math 1325. They have a different number. Over here, they have a different number. But if you click on them, you see where it says equals Math 1324.
Yeah, equals.
Yeah. So this one is Math 1325. I would say that those are probably better suited if that's the direction you think you're going to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would contact the math department at Northwest Vista, and you can do that by just going to the web, going to Northwest Vista's website. Let me see what happens if you just type in math. Okay, so at the bottom you should have Dylan. Oh, okay, here we go. This current students right here. You see that? If you contact them, then they should be able to look at the transfer you into a 13-14 class.
Okay.
Do you think you'd want to do that? Just do a switch?
Well, I don't know. What would you think would be better? Because I mean, I could stick through this one, and then would it be possible to change to next semester? Or
I personally think that you will get way more out of that 1324 class than you're going to get here. But it also depends on your
yeah, because I skipped last year. I graduated in 2020, and then I didn't want to, I thought with the COVID situation, I didn't know how online classes would go. So
how's your math? I mean, how's your actual